Welcome to this channel about keeping small tropical lizards into compact bioactive enclosures. My name is Vincent and this video is the first video of a series on how to set up, or let's say initially build, a compact bioactive enclosure for small tropical lizards. Basically, it's the starter video for this whole YouTube playlist. So yeah, as stated in the introduction of this video, this is a starter video for a complete playlist on how to set up a bioactive enclosure for small tropical lizards such as anoles. Two things up front: this video is based on a PowerPoint, and secondly, we will not do any building just yet in this video. So there are a few things I want to explain first, and that is exactly what this video is for. Three things in this video. I will explain what you can expect from the enclosure if you follow this playlist. I will tell the kind of work that has to be done for setting up a compact bioactive enclosure, and finally I will summarize the videos that will be in this playlist. Okay, what can you expect from the enclosure? So first of all, they will be bioactive. A few things regarding bioactive. Me personally, I am not going back anymore to fake plastic plants and all that kind of stuff. It's a past station for me. I think there are some advantages to bioactive. So yeah, the enclosures are just more pleasing to look at with real plants. It starts to feel like making a piece of art, and yeah, secondly, it makes the hobby much more complete as a whole. So it's a sort of extra dimension to the hobby because of the plants, microorganisms and stuff. And I also really believe that it's just better for the animals. Yeah, what is bioactive? So there's actually a sort of official definition, you can call it, on Wikipedia, which is really good. I will put a link down below this video to that page. And yeah, for me, again, personally, if I have to explain it, I always say there's like two ingredients to it. So on one side, you need waste from plants which are alive, from animals which are alive, mosses which are alive. And on the other side, you need microorganisms, a lot of times referred to as the cleanup crew, and they eat the waste, or better say, they break down the waste into nutrition that the plants can use again. So you have a sort of miniature ecosystem in your enclosure, a sort of miniature circle of life. Yeah, secondly, minimal maintenance. So in a period of 6 years, I want to end up with 40 to 45 enclosures, and I want to be able to maintain them all by myself. So I will minimize the maintenance for each individual enclosure. Two ways I will do that. First of all, automate. So for example, you can automate lighting, misting, and those kinds of things. And secondly, also just make smart decisions, for example, regarding slow growing plants. Third guideline, yeah, optimize space within compact enclosures. So again, something personal, but for me, when I look at a rack with a lot of compact enclosures, that's just more pleasing to me than one really big enclosure. But I know the downside of small enclosures is that the animals have less space, so I try to mitigate that downside as much as possible, and you will see some techniques in my playlist for doing this. And last, I will only focus on tropical environments, so no desert or cloud forest or savanna or anything. So yeah, summarized, what can you expect from the enclosure? A compact bioactive tropical enclosure with optimized space and minimal maintenance. And if you think, hey, that's something for me, then yeah, stick around. Okay, then the work that has to be done before we dive into the actual building. Yeah, I defined 4 phases for myself for everything regarding the enclosure. So it starts with the planning phase. I really like to plan everything up front before I start to build. So I want to find the breeder where I can get the animals I want, and I want to know what base enclosure I have to purchase. And then we go to the initial build phase. This playlist is all about that, and in the next 2 slides I will explain that. Then we go to the active running phase, so that's the phase where you have a bioactive enclosure with animals inside, and yeah, I guess this playlist will eventually be the biggest, because all sorts of maintenance videos on misting, feeding, breeding I will put in that playlist. And then the final phase is the redo and refurbishment phase. So for example, you don't like your animals anymore, or you don't like the enclosure anymore, and you have to do something about that. And yeah, so there will eventually be 4 playlists, one for each of the phases. Then the initial build phase, yeah, I use 4 main steps there, and yeah, a quick look back to the planning phase. Actually, I have a planning sheet, and in that sheet I can see per enclosure in what phase they are and at what step they are, and that's just really nice for myself to manage all that. So yeah, the 4 phases are, first of all, we have to put in the background. Then I wait 4 to 6 weeks so the moss can really set in nicely before we go to the second step, which is everything you have to do in the enclosure. So hydration layer, substrate, hardscaping, planting. Then I again leave the enclosure for a couple of weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, so roughly, only with a grow lamp on top, so that yeah, everything can settle down. That's actually the third step. So plants can root, microorganism colonies can grow, and yeah, the enclosure should look good before we go to the next step, the final step, which is making the enclosure ready for animals. So creating a basking spot, the humidity should be right, the temperature should be right, and then we can put in the animals. So there are a few more videos than steps. These are the videos that you will be in this playlist, and for each video I will name the techniques that I use regarding that kind of work. So first video will be all about the enclosure bases. So for me, a basic enclosure is something else than the ready bioactive enclosure, and yeah, for selecting the right basic enclosure you should take some stuff into consideration, for example ventilation. So all on that in this video, and in this video I will also name the species I'm gonna put in in the last video, and I will also name some good beginner species in this video if you want to get into this niche of the hobby. Second video all about the background. I have 2 techniques there, so I don't put in the fern root as a whole, but I cut thin slices and then I make a sort of mosaic. And also with the moss I have a certain technique. I actually put it in a blender, and then with a painting brush I put it on the background. Then the third video, that will be everything up until the substrate, so the hydration layer. I use hydro balls for the hydration layer, and I use again fern root as the filter layer to the substrate, and in this video I will explain why I do that. The fourth video, yeah, create a wooden centerpiece. So this is a certain technique that I use yeah, to create a centerpiece. I actually put a ceramic counterweight under the wooden piece, and it's really firm in the enclosure, and then you can start to put everything against it, and this really helps out with maximizing the space in the enclosure. Then the fifth video, all about substrate, a certain technique here. So I have a base substrate, and then I put additional stuff to it, so sphagnum moss, leaf litter, also some supplements, and also the substrate I added to the enclosure in 2 steps. So first I create a thin layer of substrate, and then actually at step 7 I put in substrate where needed during planting. Sixth video, all about microorganisms, again a certain technique here. So I have a few staple microorganisms that I always put in, and then I have something what I call like sexy organisms. So for example, a more expensive isopod or certain beetles that you can put in the enclosure for adding an extra animal to the ecosystem. Then video 7, that's like finishing up the enclosure, and in this video I will tell all about how I use certain mosses, slow growing plants, fast growing plants, how to put them in smart places and all that. Video 8, all regarding lighting, so I actually put 3 light units above each of my enclosures, heat, UVB and a grow light, and I sort of optimized the cost factor here, so regarding electricity but also regarding swapping the light units. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Then the 9th video, getting balance in the enclosure, so it's all about humidity, temperatures, a basking spot and everything to make the enclosure ready for the animals. And then the final video will be a sort of fun video where we put in the animals that we selected in video 1 to the enclosure, and then it's sort of a closed story playlist. So this was the main part of the video, and now we go to the roundup part of this video. As a roundup for this video, I will do 3 things. I will quickly tell something about my current setup. Maybe it's a sort of inspiration. I will do a recap on this video, what did we do, and I will explain what we are gonna do in the next video of this playlist. So yeah, quickly my current setup. I have 6 nursery enclosures. If you want to know the specs on them or how I use them, check out my previous video. I will put a link below this video to it. And I have 7 main enclosures at the moment. 2 I still use for babies because I still have to rehouse them to the nursery enclosures, but I will do that just before the next Ham Expo. So this is one with babies and this one, and in the other 5 enclosures I have proven breeding pairs. So in this enclosure there's a proven breeding pair, Anoles pahuruquensis. I see I have to clean my enclosures. In this enclosure there's a proven breeding pair of Phelsuma sepe Diana. In here is a proven breeding pair of Tachydromus dorsalis. In here I have a proven breeding pair of Anoles Christophi, and here a proven breeding pair of Anoles lucius, also the Anoles lucius and the Phelsuma sepe Diana. They are for sure unrelated, and for the other 3 I don't know. So yeah, that's my current setup. So what did we do this video? Yeah, we explained what you can expect from this playlist, what you can expect from the enclosures. You can see a few examples now, and what videos will be in the playlist. Yeah, then for the next video, what will we do? Now we will unbox or unwrap this enclosure, the small tall Exoterra, and I will explain why I use the Exoterra and what things I take into consideration when getting a base enclosure. And then based on that you can pick your own base enclosure, because of course you don't have to use the Exoterra. Also in that video I will name the species that I am gonna house in this enclosure, and I will also name a few beginner species if you like to get into this niche of the hobby. So compact, bioactive, tropical, and then yeah, you can take one of those species in the top of your mind when following the playlist. And what I will also do, I just thought of that, is I will name the theme I am going for, because if you start with an enclosure, it's nice to already have a theme for it so you can work towards that. So yeah, that's gonna be the next video. Yeah, then the very final thing, as always, I will also do that in these experience videos. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. I leave that all up to you, but it's highly appreciated, and we will see each other when we get there.